This is the Big O Show. This is the Big O Show.
All righty. There you are. How you doing, my man? You doing good?
I'm good, man. Good to see you. Saw you earlier today at practice. Now back here on the screen. So twice in one day.
You know, it's just one of those things. We got to grind, and it is what it is. I don't know if you've been able to unearth, but I was able to unearth some information because there was a report out there that the Dolphins and the Vikings were close on a deal for Dalvin Cook in March, and I found out that that's actually not true. They were never really close on it. They've never been close on any kind of a deal for Dalvin Cook, actually. So I don't know what do you hear where this thing stands, but I keep trying to tell the Dolphin Nation, this doesn't stand on the Dolphin side. This is more the Dalvin Cook group and Minnesota trying to sell and push this thing. Miami's not sitting there doing anything. You know what I mean? I'm trying to tell people that it's not that they wouldn't add him to the roster, but they're going to add him on their terms. They're not going to try to, go overboard at all. They're fine with what they have. They're extremely happy with what they have. So your thoughts on that story and where it stands?
Yeah, I had purposely kind of avoided reporting on Dalvin Cook because I've not heard anything since March about Dalvin Cook from the Dolphin side of things. I've told you guys I'm aware they had conversations about Dalvin Cook, but that's probably as far as I knew. Not saying there wasn't more, but that's as far as I knew.
Oh, that's as far as it went.
And so that's sort of what I reported. And so I'm big on not like directly telling people they're wrong about things, but I'll tell you what I hear from the people I talk to. And so from what I understand, they did their due diligence. They had conversations about it. Since then, they've drafted Devon A-Chain. Now, does that take them completely out of the Cook race? I don't know that it does, but I've told you guys time and time again, I don't see them being the team that's going to put up big money to get a Dalvin Cook. So, if he gets released and he's willing to take pennies to come back home, maybe that changes the conversation. But otherwise, I don't know that I necessarily view the Dolphins as this imminent move for Dalvin Cook, like I think is the outside perspective.
Thank you, Cam. I mean, it's just kind of ridiculous. All right, so I'm not asking about linebackers, linemen, D linemen. They're not hitting, so none of that shit matters. But what stood out to you? What did you like today?
Yeah, defense won a day. I mean, which is fine. Defenses are usually higher up early in the stages of the offseason. The offense takes a little longer to get together. You also have to have the context that, Connor Williams is not there. Teron Armstead's not doing anything. Tyreek Hill isn't doing much.
But neither is Jalen Phillips.
Cool.
Neither
and Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah.
So it does balance out, right? And so,
right.
The defense has shown some signs of life for me. I like some of the elements we're seeing. Obviously, we're only seeing maybe the vanilla form of a Vic Fangio defense, but you see a little bit of the movement. You see how they go about in coverage. And, I think that this team has a lot of potential to be better as a defensive unit. And so we talk a lot. I talk a lot on TV about Tua and Tyreek and Waddle. We talk a lot of this show on there. But for me, the big takeaway for this week and what I really want to study is this Dolphins defense and see what ways are they going to be able to get better. To me, you look at a guy like a Jalen Phillips, you look at a guy like a Christian Wilkins. These are two guys who can really launch themselves into stardom in this new scheme. You got elite DBs behind you. You're going to get a lot of one-on-one matchups. And so Jalen Phillips has looked good all offseason. He didn't do anything today in regards to team drills. He was kind of, I think he was doing a lot of rehab work. I'm not sure what's bothering him. But
some was because he missed half the practice.
Yeah,
and he
didn't come out until towards the very end. And he had his helmet and some pads on, but I didn't see him do a ton. Right. And so we talked to him after practice. He indicated he was fine, but he clearly didn't do everything today. But even before practice, we heard Mike McDaniel rave about Jalen and saying this is the best he's ever practiced. And so you talk about a defense and Vic Fangio that's going to have to not going to blitz as much as they did last year. They're not going to play as man coverage as much as they did last year. Well, somebody's going to have to get home from their front four and front five more consistently. And I think over the second half of the year, we saw Jalen Phillips really turn it up. I think he's a big candidate. Last year, I think I was circling Javon Holland, and he didn't have that quite the year that I expected, but I think it'll come for him in year 3. This year, I think Jalen Phillips is the guy you guys want to watch. Jalen Phillips is the guy who, he's been a solid player who's flashed greatness. I think that he has the potential to be a great player. And I think that you can see him being not only a double-digit sack guy, but maybe 12+ if he can really tap into what he is as a full-time player. And so the Dolphins need that. They haven't had that number one pass rusher that threatened defenses probably since Cam Wake. And, I think it's time, and I think Jalen Phillips has got a great opportunity in this scheme. So my big takeaway is probably the defense. The offense didn't do a ton today. It was a lot of checkdowns. And that's just kind of the way of the day. Chosen Anderson had a nice day as a receiver. He's kind of had a few good days in a row. And, overall, I think my big question continues to be, is this offensive line as currently constructed going to be good enough? They let some pressure in today. Like I mentioned, no Connor Williams, no Teron Armstead, but, they're bringing back the same 5 as last year. Is that good enough? I think that's going to be a lingering question I have going into training camp.
Yeah, Jalen Phillips for me is a 10+ sack guy this year. This is the year where he ends up breaking out. Liam Eichenberg was practicing at center, and I was looking at it more kind of like an experiment. This is what you do at this time to find out, hey, I know what you are. Let's see what else can you do, that kind of stuff. Well, we kind of found out now that it's actually more an act of desperation to find out if the Connor Williams holdout lasts long enough, you may need other people to play center. Although I got to say, he's under contract for 1 more year. So I don't see him literally holding out when training camp starts because the fines would be brutal. But the message was sent. Connor Williams clearly, which I didn't think, by the way, this deal was going to be done this year. I thought it would be done towards the end of the season coming up or at the off season or something like that. That's what I thought would happen with Connor, but we're going to have to fast track this thing. It looks like it.
Yeah, it's an interesting one, right? Because we were talking a lot of this offseason about Christian Wilkins being the contract to watch, and he's still a contract to watch, but Christian's been here all offseason, and Connor, everybody's got their own perspective, right? Connor Williams clearly felt like he could do more for himself, or maybe it's just a stance he wants to take in skipping minicamp. I'm not sure where they are in negotiations, but Connor Williams set to make $7 million this year. I don't think any of it's guaranteed. You could argue that he probably outplayed that contract. He probably is more of an $8, $9, $10 million player. I don't know how much more you give a guy like Connor Williams. And the other avenue is he did sign a 2-year deal last year, and so this is just the second year. And so I'm usually an advocate of players doing whatever they can to get their money. And I'm not going to change my stance for Connor Williams, but I would probably want to know more from what is the negotiation state and what is Connor Williams looking for him to be happy.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm just wondering, like, wow, this.
Yeah. The reality is Connor Williams is a valuable player on this team. There's no other center they have ready that you feel great about starting. Like Dan Feeney's played center in the past. You would rather him be a backup swing guard center than a starter. You mentioned Liam Eichenberg. I don't think you want him as your starting center. There's just not a lot of options that you feel great about at this stage. And so you need Connor Williams, especially because he was probably, you probably could say he was one of the 2 best offensive linemen on this team, along with Teron Armstead, maybe Robert Hunt. You could say definitely one of the top 3 offensive linemen on this team last year.
He's part of your foundation of offensive linemen. He's one of your 3 guys. And now we got to be honest here, okay? It's him and his agent going, Connor, you're going into your final year. Most of it is not guaranteed. They got to sign Wilkins and Sealer and Waddle's coming up, and Jalen Phillips is coming up, and Holland's coming up. They're going to have to pay a whole bunch of people. We need to make a stance now to try to get you and get your extension going and get that thing going because they desperately need you. They still have to figure out left guard and right tackle. This is our chance. And I think he and his agent did a really smart thing because when you think about it, no, you've been around this league long enough. You've gotten to know players and agents.
Yeah,
they take it personal that they have to play that final year without an extension.
Yeah. It's from a coaching perspective, there's very rarely lame duck coaches. Coaches always get extensions. For players, if you're entering the final year of your deal without extension, it's sort of like a lame duck. You're a lame duck player. Good players, exactly. And so you're taking the risk. If Connor Williams, knock on wood, gets hurt tomorrow, none of his deals guaranteed, and he has no assurances that he's going to get paid anything beyond this year. And so I understand it from a player perspective. And then the team will also say you signed a 2-year deal, so you play out the 2 years. And so that's probably what's going on right now. And the true, question comes in training camp. If he starts holding out training camp practices, then you start disrupting the chemistry for the start of the season, and you got to figure out, hey, who's going to budge. A lot of times we see it solved by then. To me, like I said, I don't know the nature of the contract, but a lot of times you can see these issues solved by, hey, let's put $1 million or $2 million of incentives inside the deal. If you play, 80-90% of the snaps and our offensive ranking goes up a half dozen spots, we'll give you an extra $2 million, or $1.5 million or something. A lot of times that's a way you can make it sweetener. It gives him incentive to, hey, this is more than what you're making. But you're not necessarily changing the contract other than incentives. And so with not knowing how far they're apart, that to me would be a way I would view a solution.
Yeah. I almost get because I got and this is where I was wrong on the show. I thought this wasn't a deal that was going to be on the burner right now. I thought it was going to be a deal that was later on, but the agent and Connor have something to say about it. And I don't blame him. You know what?
Yeah, it works both ways, right? If Connor had a bad year, last year, then he would have been a candidate to be cut. That's just the reality of the situation. If it was a bad experiment at center, they probably would have cut Connor Williams and moved on. It went well, probably better than some people expected. And now Connor's saying, hey, I want a chance to move on. But that's not the way the contracts work in the league. And so he's trying to have his player leverage kind of going around. It'll be interesting to see what Chris Greer and company does for that.
By the way, I'm with Poop and Omar now after I got to see him up close. Yeah, not that impressed with Mike White's arm, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's just early, but Skylar Thompson, probably looked like the better practice player today.
By the way, the inside shoulder one he threw in the end zone, that was the best throw of the day.
Yeah. Okay? Skylar continues to grow.
Skylar still has to work on his touch passes. That's where I think he needs to kind of fine-tune. But that anticipatory throw he made today, that was strong because I've never seen that in his game. Usually the anticipatory throws, that's next level. And I saw that was really, really nice throw on his part today, man.
Skylar had a solid day. And so, I mean, they paid Mike White, I think, $4.5 million guaranteed. He's probably going to get every right to be the backup quarterback. But Mike McDaniel said, hey, Skylar's going to compete. So if Skylar really is truly competing, then he's performing well compared to Mike White in this stage of the offseason. But like I said, it's just June. Probably too early to overreact, but it is something to note.
Chosen ran well. Caught a few balls. Got skinny legs, by the way. He reminds me.
He's a tall guy.
Yeah, he's got Lamar Thomas legs.
Yeah.
So you're a little young for that, but Lamar Thomas was a receiver for the Canes and for Dolphins, a couple of teams, but he was notorious for having really skinny legs. And when I saw Chosen today, I was like, damn, those are Lamar Thomas legs right there.
Yeah.
But he ran well. He caught a nice ball in the corner of the end zone.
Yeah.
Which was actually a nice throw. Tyler Croft made a nice little juggle type throw that he put away because it was a bad pass. It was underthrown, and he ended up making the best of that pass because I think it was Bethel that was there for the play, if I'm correct.
Yeah.
The guys like Tehran, Jalen Phillips, Brandon, Nick Needham, and Trill are either veterans or injuries. Why Tyndall not practicing? Do we know?
I haven't heard anything about Tyndall. Maybe he's nursing something minor. we don't get injury reports at this stage of the offseason, and we only get so many questions. And so no Channing Tindall questions today. Maybe we'll get a little bit more context tomorrow. But as you know, Trill Williams and Nick Needham and Brandon Jones, all those guys are coming through rehab from their serious injuries, and so they're kind of going back. But you didn't see Tindall. I don't think Keon Crossan did a lot. I think he's battling through off-season surgery that he came off of as well. And so none of these guys are probably anything to worry about until you don't see them in training camp. But something to note.
What do you think happens? Does Miami go out and try to find another center?
I think that's probably a question for closer to training camp. If they get it close to training camp, maybe a week before, and realize that, hey, Connor, we're not close and Connor's not going to show up, then yeah, you probably got to bring in another option. As of now, it's June. I wouldn't stress it too much.
All right, what do you got going on the NFL Network so folks can check you out?
Yeah, we're doing mini camp coverage on NFL Plus. Each of the next 2 days, really the next 2 weeks, each of the next Tuesday and Wednesday. And so I'm actually scheduled to come on in about 45 minutes or so, talk a little Dolphins and what we saw today. So I'll give you some Dolphins coverage today. We'll do that tomorrow as well. And and I'll probably be here Thursday too. So all week of Dolphins mini camp as we gear up for last week for 6 weeks.
There you go. And we'll catch up on Friday. We'll get your recap of the week, and we'll go over all of that good stuff. You got faith in the Heat here in the next 2 games?
I do. I think they probably. I don't know if I got them winning both, but I think they win one, and we go back to Denver where it's being 2-2. I think that's the most likely deal. I don't know if it's tomorrow night or if it ends up being Friday, but I think Denver does get one. I don't think they get the sweep at home, and then I think this ends up being a 7-game series. I think this ends in Denver, Game 7, and I can see it going either way.
Yeah, no, it's man. I mean, for them to split it like they did and Jimmy's not 100%. You can tell something's wrong with him.
Right.
I don't know what the hell is wrong with him, but I've never seen him go to the hole that much to pass.
Yeah,
like that's some crazy shit,
Yeah, he's definitely banged up, and hopefully gets a couple days of rest, and we'll see a better version. But it's tough at this stage of the playoffs to get 100%.
And Spo's the best coach in the NBA.
He's awesome, man. He's awesome. Awesome. I thought it was interesting hearing McDaniel say today that he texted Spo the adversity is the opportunity. I can't remember. You would know better than me, but when's the last time you've seen two head coaches like this, as far as not only the way they're perceived,
socializing
in the public, but also their friendship and the way they're openly talking about texting one another and stuff like that. I know a lot of times they go visit, like Flo went to go visit Spo at one point, but I don't know if they ever had a relationship like McDaniel seems to have with them.
Because these are 2 more modern day coaches, and so they, I mean, I hate to use them as an example, but we're in the press room. And my man Bo, he doesn't know how to handle his phone. Yeah. And his phone is screaming out these dinosaur sounds because they're calling him. And apparently he has somebody tied a dinosaur ring to somebody that calls him. Must have been somebody he knows. And the poor man, like older folks, they don't know, technology. And so the Dolphin PR person had to come over and take the phone out of the room.
A funny moment.
Because Bo Camper doesn't know how to handle his phone. So
it was pretty hilarious.
I think that, most coaches are old. And, the off seasons when they might have time for you or that kind of stuff. These guys are a little younger. They're hipper. They kind of get it. Even though Spo's not he looks young. He's not necessarily that young anymore.
Is Spo 50 yet? Or is he probably mid? Really?
Yeah, I think 48 or something like that.
I was going to guess that he was in the early 40s, but you're right. He's probably one of those guys that looks younger, and he may have an extra 5 or 10 years on. So he is, he's in his 50s. Yeah. He's 52.
52.
Wow.
He'll be 53 November 1st.
I would have guessed he was 10 years younger, but you're right. He does give a younger vibe.
He has it, but he has it, and he has a younger vibe because he's the one that's kind of, he's the guy that adjusts to. He's the guy that did the positionless crap. Right, it's kind of started that whole trend here in the NBA when he got the big three. There's no centers, no forwards, and all that stuff, and so this is a modern day guy. And McDaniel, by the way, what is he? He's at least somewhere in his late 30s to early 40s, right?
I think he just turned 40. If I'm right, I think McDaniel is 40 this year.
Yeah. So these guys, they're a different generation, and I think that's why they can they can balance both. Where old school coaches, those guys maybe wanted to talk to another coach when they were off. Or at some function or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But I've never seen this. But then again, who the hell has seen 2 8 seeds get to the NBA and NHL?
It's a new era. It's a new era for sure.
It's crazy. All right. Follow him on Twitter at Cameron Wolfe and catch his exceptional work there at the NFL Network. He'll be back on Friday with the KSDT CPA Miami Dolphins report. We'll catch you later on in the week, my friend. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Sounds good, man. Take care.
You got it. There you go. Cameron Wolfe. We have unleashed the Wolf Pack.